you so much for watching, listening. Totally stoked that you're here. Of course you want to subscribe. Like, why wouldn't you? Because this is amazing content. And we're starting a new series called Be Strong and Courageous. However, of course, I want you to really enjoy this joke. I'm saying dripping with sarcasm is funny. But my uncle recently quit his job to pursue his dream in archaeology, and now his career is in ruins. I like that, because honestly, I used to want to be an archaeologist, so that's my little rabbit trail. Hey, be strong and courageous. We're starting a new series, and of course, I'd love for you to like this. This is an amazing series to encourage you. You want to share it with your friends, of course, and love to have all your comments, because again, remember, this is called social media, so the idea of being social means that we connect with each other, and one of the ways we connect is by sharing, right? Sharing as well as commenting. So in this series, talking about be strong and courageous. And it's interesting because we're going to be looking at the book of Joshua in the Old Testament. And I like this because it's a very transition season for the nation of Israel. But, you know, one thing for a nation to go through transition, but it's a different scenario for an individual to go through a transition. So comment on this. What is a transition that you have gone through? You're like, what do you mean by transition? Well, a change. You might be changing a job, changing your school. You might be in a season, like, just think about what are some changes, transitions. Comment on that, because we all go through various changes and challenges that go with change and transition. But I want to encourage you, and this is what the series is going to help you with, is be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous, because at the very beginning in Joshua 1, God speaks to Joshua and he tells him several times in verse 6, verse 7, verse 9, be strong and courageous. So the idea, if God was telling him that, it's possible, in fact likely, that Joshua was not strong and he was not courageous, meaning he might have felt weak, and opposite of courage might be fearful. So think about that, weak and fearful. And that's why God is telling him, be strong and courageous. And a lot of times I don't think that we're always honest with ourselves. I don't feel weak, I'm not afraid. And you may not think that, but when you look at the decisions that you make in your life, they reflect fear and weakness. So I think this is a really important series for us to think about, consider, and let it sink into our souls. Be strong, be courageous, and particularly in the midst of transition, because that is exactly what's happening, especially at the beginning of the book. Because at the very beginning, in the first few verses there, it says that Moses died. So Joshua's coming on the heels of Moses. And the challenge is that Moses had been leading the Israelites for 40 years. He's the movie star, rock star, the astounding, achieve all, God appointed, inspired. I mean, this is Moses, 10 plagues, 10 commandments, Red Sea, Mount Sinai, leading them in the desert, manna in the wilderness, all kinds of stuff. This is the Moses. And now he's dead. And so if you're Joshua and you're like the successor, it's a little disturbing, a little unsettling, a little bit like you might feel like you don't measure up. And I think all these things go into God speaking to Joshua and saying, be strong and courageous, like that right now, seriously, because that is really, really important for us to recognize God speaking to us and telling us, be strong and courageous. And particularly when we're at the beginning of transition, when things have changed, people have changed, the past has changed, and it's a new season. So think about it. Joshua had been very comfortable and gotten used to wandering in the wilderness with, these Israelites for the last 40 years, 4 decades of doing the same thing over and over, rinse, lather, repeat. I mean, seriously, it's just continuous. And now, so Joshua's proficient. He could do that in his sleep. Now he has a different assignment in front of him, because we're done. We're done with that wilderness thing. And now we're moving into a different season, a different context, a different challenge. And so I want to encourage you that this is the series we're working on, and you have friends, neighbors, relatives you can share this with, because of course it's really, really good. And I want you to think about this question. I want you to comment on this. What is a transition in your life? Comment. What's a transition in your life? And it can be anything big to little. In the last couple years, I transitioned from having my hair dyed all the time to not dyeing my hair. That was an interesting transition. There were some difficult parts in that. You're like, that's stupid, it's your hair. I agree, but I'm just bringing that as an example because there's a lot of different transitions, small, little, medium, but life is about transition and change, and we're gonna be talking about that in this series called Be Strong and Courageous. Thanks so much.